So yes, it was just stall a little bit. I do find this chapter. What I normally do with these is, of course, I've read ahead, but then right before we're to meet, I go through my notes again, read the chapter again, so it gives me an additional bonus to not only absorb the material, and I'm just fascinated by this chapter 11, the mystery of sex transmutation. I think it's something that's never talked about, and because it is, just the title alone is just creates a taboo in society, and but that it is a great power to wield. It is a great power if harnessed and understood. And when we're talking about the laws of the universe, when we're talking about the power of the mind and the magnetism, it really shows, you really find out that it is, whether they know it or not, by default of design, that the most successful, or the ones that we look to as mentors in our related fields, have that it factor, harness that sex energy, if you will, and harnessed it towards their achievement. You can, maybe another word is charisma. And are you hearing everything okay, Joey?
Yeah, is it just you and me talking here?
So far right now, Sandra's looking to hop on as soon as possible.
Is Leroy on this call though? No.
He is gonna come. But I haven't heard from him. I'm sure he will as soon as possible. He spoke highly of you last week. Because that's the great thing when we're all here, and a great thing of having a group just like a mastermind group is we're able to learn off each other. And and the advice that you gave him on finding the people, it's not just about the reading of his figures and everything fast. It was the quality that you told him about, and finding the best people in his field and to start studying them. And he was very appreciative and speaking your glory last week.
Oh, I like him a lot. I mean, for me, it's first of all, to talk about the chapter, if we're going to chat about it a bit. I think that, yeah, I mean, it's easy to identify it as charisma, like sexual energy as charisma. Like that's like the easy connection. And I think that's great.
Sure.
Like, yeah, but it's more what he's talking about to me is
Well, we stopped there, a little frozen there for a second, but we'll pick you up right when you come back. And yes, that's probably a little lessening of the word, the sexual energy, and transmuting it, like I began the call, was that we're harnessing energy and using it, transferring it towards another desired achievement. And and the emotion of sex brings into being a state of mind. And there's the emotion of sex has the back of it the possibility of three potentialities, and they are the perpetuation of mankind, 2, the maintenance of health as a therapeutic agent, and it has no equal. It has no equal whatsoever. And 3, the transformation of mediocrity into genius through its transmutation. And so there's So there's those three aspects of why there's a sex emotion. And with that said, sex transmutation is simple and easily explained. It means the switching of the mind of physical expression to thoughts of some other nature, so that you're transmuting that energy, that desired stimulation, that impulse, into something else. And it's listed at, the reason why you would want to do such a thing. Sex desire is the most powerful of human desires.
I'm back.
Hello. Okay.
So who are you talking to?
Just keep going.
So you were talking to nobody?
You just no, it's being recorded, so you just keep going.
Oh, so you were talking to the camera?
Absolutely.
Oh, see, I didn't realize like that's the standard. I get it. I mean, it makes sense.
Yes.
So yeah, so what I was saying, which is now going to be leveraged for whatever video you're making, which I didn't really understand, but I get it now, is that essentially is like the urge to mate with the girl, why you have a crush, why you have like this like inner desire to call that person, why you like that push of yourself to do that is what he's looking to transmute, and what he's like transmuting it to is towards a different outcome than the sexual expression of what it is. Charisma is like a signal of it. It's like what you see. It's like the outer layer of what he's talking about. But I don't think it's necessarily anything really to do with the transmutation itself. I think it's like a signal of it. When he talks about highly sexed people, it's an indicator rather than be the answer. I think for the answer, it's internal. The answer is it's the burning desire is the best way. Like the stimuli is the burning desire, and the burning desire is best exemplified by the need to express yourself sexually. And yeah, so that's what I think that the actual overall chapter is really about, is harnessing that power. And I think that when he talks about taking you to be older, like past the age of 40, for example, which I don't think either of us are you? So
I'm 41.
There you go.
I'll be 42 in October.
But yeah, so the waiting beyond that, it's that you're able to see clearer, you get clarity of mind because the physical urge to express yourself isn't so dominant, and it makes a lot of sense. Also, like it's coming from a period or an era of time when like I would say that as 60 is the new 50, the people say that, or 50 is the new 40. So 40 for him might be 30 for us. So we might be in the current age of that, or else in some ways, and this is up for discussion, I wish there are other people on this call that we could discuss it with, is maybe it gets pushed back. So in this case, 40 is the new 50 and 50 is the new 60. And so really you're not going to reach your ability to transmute your own sexual energy, to harness it to its fullest ability till beyond the age of 50 maybe. Or maybe it's already happening in the age of 30. What up, Leroy? How's it going, buddy? Thank you for coming.
I'm good, Joey. Sorry for the delay again.
Oh, I don't mind. I'm going to have to leave this call early, so just the unfortunate part is that we missed each other on both ends. So, I understand that you had a good call last week with Dave, with the group mastermind and persistence. Like those were good topics for you.
Yeah, they definitely were.
Yeah, so I think a lot of the group mastermind stuff, it comes down to the stuff that we're doing here and the stuff that you do with your own peers as well. The group mastermind, it's a very short chapter, but I think it's a very important chapter. Your parents and your grandparents, they tell you you're known by the company you keep. That's the saying, and so your friends reflect who you are. And the mastermind is even more intense a place to be than just your friend. It's part of your core group, and being part of your core group, that mastermind, it's sacred. It's something that should be cherished, because the idea of being on the same mental level of vibration as somebody else for an ongoing period of time to achieve a definite purpose is something that's very difficult to do. I mean, even in the idea of a mastermind between a husband and a wife, it fails 50% of the time. and that's with with all the things that Napoleon Hill was talking about. So yeah, last week, I'm sorry I missed the call for you about the mastermind, but I do think that it is a very important chapter, and it really has a different meaning every time you read it. Who's in your mastermind? What does a mastermind consist of? And then going into this week's topic of sex transmutation, your number one mastermind is that of your wife or that of your main lover. Like, that's your first and foremost mastermind, and that's why the chapters go right beside each other. Is that that's the first thing. Is that and he says it in either this chapter or the next chapter. He says that any mastermind that's created has to be created with your true love as part of your mastermind, or else it won't be a lasting, ongoing achievement, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm sorry that I missed the call with you on the mastermind, but the idea of even having this kind of a book club or book review on the topic is part and parcel of being part of the mastermind. And so I knew I had, my brother had a baby this week. I have another brother coming in to visit, the airport very soon. But I knew I had to make it to at least part of this call because I owed it to my quote-unquote mastermind group that we continue our progress towards the achievement and towards finishing the book, right? So I wanted to make sure that I got on this call to make sure that, I thought that Sandra was going to be here too, but yeah, that we would all get back together on this, and I think that's really my goal.
Oh, that's awesome.
We do.
Appreciate that, Joey.
What did you think of the chapter? What did you think of I want to get your thoughts on all the stuff, on what I said, and your own, what your experience has been so far through the book.
All right, so in terms of the sex transmutation, it was really intense yesterday. I think the analogy that he used to say it lifts you up to a level where a level where your vibration of thought is so fast, you are not inhibited by what troubles the normal mind. You go above that. I think you kind of relate when you are, for instance, chasing your one and only. That drive blocks out anything in your path, and you go with it with such passion. And I think the aspect I was trying to get to, or trying to understand mostly, was how do you convert that much drive and energy that comes so naturally towards a desired goal? Yes, I understand there's the stimuli, the 10 stimuli, sex is one of them, but how do you transmit so much passion into a goal that you have? For instance, in this case, to create wealth, how do you do it? Is there a formula that someone can lay down in a way that's a bit understandable?
So he says it in the chapter. What he says is it's and this is kind of before you came on the call, is what I was saying. It's like that inner urge, that inner drive, that's what you try to harness. And he says the way you transmute it is through thinking about it. So you recognize it, you acknowledge it, and you say, I want to point it towards the achievement of wealth rather than the achievement of sex. Right? So you take it, you're like, I have this burning desire to go get that girl. I need her in my life. And you start to think that, and why, where is that feeling coming from? And you start to think about that feeling rather than, and this is why the book is called Think and Grow, because you think about it, right? And that the thought is exactly that. It's how am I going to use this strength, this inner urge? And it would be interesting to get Sandra's. Hey Sandra, it would be interesting to get your perspective as well from a woman's side, because he doesn't talk about a woman's desire for sex at all in the chapter. But the idea is that it's like this inner forza, this inner strength, this inner passion that you have, and you have it innately for your mate because it's ingrained in us. And then we think about, where is that coming from? Why is that happening? How can I point it? How can I use it in a different way? And up until you turn 40, you don't even think about that. Your mind is so wrapped up in just getting it that you don't even use it for anything but its physical expression. But by taking that urge and taking that and creating that as your burning desire, making that the fire burn brighter there, using that that stimuli, and he's not saying to use all the stimuli in that. He's saying that they're all stimuli that make you vibrate, and the one that makes you vibrate the fastest is sex. And if you can vibrate the fastest for a different purpose, then you'll be able to use that energy towards the achievement of your definite purpose. And to me, that's kind of what I say is his way of what he tries to say in this chapter. does a lot of it in terms of when he talks about I don't remember the inventor's name, the patent officer's name, who he says closes his eyes and then thinks of ways to solve his problem, and he uses that. And so he says, okay, so I have this burning desire, this urge, right, that's usually pointed towards sex, and now I'm going to point it towards figuring out the solution to this patent so that way I can have a new invention. And so then he closes his eyes, and in the same way he's thinking about, how he would think about to court a mate, he's thinking about how he's going to solve this problem. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I think that's the crux of the chapter. That's the crux of the lesson that he's teaching in this chapter, is to repurpose that urge for sexual expression into that urge for monetary gain. What up, Sandra? How's it going? Welcome.
Hey, Sandra.
At last. Sorry, guys.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
That's an excellent question that you had, Leroy, and he lays it out when you're really harnessing the law of vibration, the law of attraction, and when it's stated that everything is moving at one speed or another, and that like energy is attracting like energy. So as he's saying, it's the vibration of thought. And with that vibration of thought, why this is such a powerful topic, I think, for discussion, because it leads to many scenarios, many connotations. And I wanted to list the 10 mind stimuli as it's in the book, and it was 1, the desire for sex expression; 2, love; 3, a burning desire for fame, power, or financial gain and money; 4, music; 5, friendship between either those of the same sex or those of the opposite sex; 6, a mastermind alliance; and once it gets stuck here, and 7, mutual suffering, such as that experienced by people who are persecuted; 8, autosuggestion; 9, fear; 10, narcotics and alcohol. These are very good to list out, because if we're talking about vibration, and we're also talking about stimulation, and for us to vibrate higher, or for most people that are in that default stage of vibrating lower, it's you're going to, if you want to be in the highest form of vibration, which is a positive aspect that's going to bring you the people, place, and events in your life. Well, love, gratitude is some of those, but the sex energy, or the expression of sex, is one of the most powerful stimulations, the most powerful vibration that you can be in. And so when you're looking at those stimulations, so it's, of course, in your life and all around you, all the endeavors, or how you're expressing yourself, is you want to get stimulated. That's why all the great artists of our time, when you would see Prince just take a guitar solo in the middle of a song, and many people would say that he's making love to the guitar. He was at one with his instrument, and that's these stimulations. These are those why you would want to harness this highest stimulation, this highest vibration, and put it into your endeavor. Now, as Joey was saying, okay, so how do you do that? Now, it's going to take one of your mind's higher faculties, which is the will. It is going to take willpower. That's why many people, whether it's failed bad marriages, or whether it's like it said, number 10 of the 10 stimuli, narcotics and alcohol, many people put their energy towards other bad stimuli, bad vibrations. Okay, and so that's why it's the willpower. Why he's making the claim, especially at that time. But I feel that it holds true now that many men and women do not become really truly successful or harnessing their mind's capabilities until past 40.
Yeah, I think it's like it means like motivator to act. So the stimuli is a motivator to act. You're slightly motivated to go to the liquor store and buy a bottle of booze or to get some weed from the guy down the corner. That takes a little bit of energy. It's a little bit of a motivation. If you want to do great things, you need a great motivator to act. Great motivator act is going to be by transmuting your sex energy, because that's where your greatest level of motivation comes from. And so that's really what he's talking about. The reason why he lays out those stimuluses, those other stimuli, is because he's giving you a list of things to change your motivation to act and give you some reason to act. Fear. I act out of fear. All the other stimuli in that list are all things that make you act. The thing that makes you act best is your sexual desire, and that's really what the crux of where the chapter has its value. Sandra, what's up? How's it going? Let's hear from you. Let's hear what you have to say about this this sexual transmutation. I was really interested because it doesn't say anything about women sexually transmuting their desire.
Yeah.
So it must be from a different perspective. I'd like to hear from you.
Thanks, Joe. To be honest with you, I could not connect with this chapter at all whatsoever. And I think what you're saying, Joe, is the main reason, because it's coming from a man's perspective.
What's that?
I not resonate with it whatsoever, and I couldn't even finish the chapter because I had to go back to the beginning to like think, what? This is the first chapter I've not been able to connect with at all throughout the whole book, and I think it's coming from a very a distinguished man who he's very staunch in his faith, but he's very open-minded, but very business-orientated, and from a very male perspective. Nowhere there was, but he couldn't relate. He couldn't refer the chapter to both man and female because he's a man. So
yeah, but in the Napoleon Hill Foundation, there's I'm sure there's a feminist version of it.
There is a Think and Grow Rich
for women, right? But my question is what's your motivator to act then? If it's not the desire to find a mate, to have sex, what's your desire to act that would stimulate you beyond the level of where you are able to achieve normally?
For me, if I want something so bad, I will just stay focused and achieve it. Simple. I don't need. I think it's the desire, the passion, the will, the motivation, all that will come into it. And it's to stay focused, not to be distracted.
Yeah.
That's the only way to put it. I just really couldn't resonate with this chapter at all whatsoever. I really couldn't.
Also, to add on to what Sandra just said, I think I read a post that you once sent, that you once posted on Facebook, and you said, "Never tell me what I can't do because I'll be able to do it." I think that would link a bit to a burning desire for fame, because you want to show that there's nothing that you can't achieve.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I also, based on that, I think based on the discussion so far, I'm starting to realize that's a strong motivator for me, because in terms of some of my greatest achievements, whenever someone questioned my ability, I would then go out all forces. I wouldn't hold back.
Absolutely.
I'll make sure I prove them wrong, and then I'll break out of that shell, out of that box that people are usually confined in, and I usually deliver very strong results based on that.
Absolutely.
Just based off of some of my experiences and maybe the back end of this chapter, what I'm realizing is we are being encouraged to utilize the resources that are around us. I believe he did mention that there's that still small voice, that if you are at just the right frequency, you'll probably be able to pick up these high thought vibrations from other people as well, from the ether, from infinite intelligence, I believe from God. So I think if we can start practicing being open to that infinite intelligence, I think with time, as we grow older, people tend to block that out because of the reasoning faculty, which is faulty, as he said. I think the creative faculty is one of those that people don't really understand, and they get to question it because you're using ways that haven't been studied or that no one else understands. So if people get in tune with this infinite intelligence, and be it you close your eyes, be it you take a brisk small walks around the park, whatever gets you to that level of vibration, be it it's narcotics, even though that's a bad one, you can get to block out this reasoning faculty and open your mind, or let your mind be a transceiver to the high thought vibrations that other people are putting out there in the ether. So instead of fighting this innate ability that we all have because of the reasoning faculty, I think we need to start blocking out our reasoning faculty bit by bit and not care what other people say, because society has been taught to think in a certain way. If you do your own thing without fear of what they may say, I think you can actually connect, and the more and more you use it, I think the better you become, and you'll be able to become like, is it Dr. Gates or whatever his name was? Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, you're right, 100%. I would say also that each of the different levels, or each of the different stimuli stimulate you to a different level of being able to connect with your sixth sense. And I think that the premise of the chapter, or the thesis of the chapter in this case, is that the way to get there the fastest and the most consistently is through vibrating at the level of sexual transmutation. And I don't think it actually talks. I don't think he means sex energy. I don't think he means like the like sexual expression in terms of like having like the physical act of sex. I think talking about the emotional and the spiritual level of where you get to by when you combine sex and love.
Actually, yes, Sandra. Well,
I understand, and that's why I can't connect with this chapter, because there'll be many people out there who may have had bad experience and who've gone to achieve and excelled in whatever they're doing by just focusing on not repeating the same mistake or not being in that same position. And I just think that as Leroy was saying, I just think that if you just shut down and not with the reasoning level and open your mind up more, you know, the internal passion, desire will just push you further, as well as staying focused and reminding you why you're doing what you're doing.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And, you know,
it's not like, but okay, it's like, for instance, the way I'm seeing it, you have people who, like a boxer, I can't remember who it was, this is part of his training. He eats certain types of foods, he trains a certain way, he abstains from intimacy with his wife so many weeks before, so that makes him a more fierce fighter. That's great, that's him. But everybody's different, you know, and I just think, like I said, I just think that maybe some people are more spiritual, more emotional, in tune with another level, that they can actually just use that energy, that stimuli, just to take them further to where they want to go.
Yes, and Joey has to go, and of course, it was his birthday yesterday, so I wanted everyone to say
No excuse. No excuse.
yeah. It was a lot of
I've been
lot
on
of
a night shift. No excuse.
a lot of family engagements, but I do appreciate him coming. And that's the other thing about persistence. Keep whatever we start, push on through, and make it to the end. And we're really getting to the nitty gritty of this book, and I can't wait for the next chapter, Subconscious Mind. But and that's the other great part of book clubs or groups like this. And as you may pick up something that someone else says that you didn't identify with, and in many books you're not going to identify with every chapter, or if it's if it's a story with every character. But again, the great part is you may pick up something like, wow, I never looked at it that way. And so I totally bypassed, it is from the 30s and much earlier. This was a 20-year project. And when I loved, when I first really started studying myself, I read the works of philosopher and author Ayn Rand. And she always spoke of the human race as man. So every time I hear that said, like as Napoleon Hill put into context of man, I still put it in my mind of, man and woman. And again, there's many versions of this book out that people have redone. And one of them is Think and Grow Rich for Women. And I'm very interested on how that is. But I would to me, I transfer it. Like, when they're speaking of man, I just think of the, man and woman and the whole human race. And to me, like, that's something automatic to me. And the other second part was, we can take all these other stimuli and use it for our greater good. Like the second that was listed in the book is love. That is, love and gratitude is one of the highest forms of vibration that you can be in. And the many things that he's suggesting, that is to get to genius level. Because as he was saying, we can take little aspects of this, or if we don't have experience with this, because I could be book smart all I want, but if I can't deliver it, if I can't say it to you, I mean that's what I connect with it. It, like our presidents in America, in the United States, it's not the man that knows all the facts. It's not the guy that is by far head and shoulders more intelligent than anyone else, but it was the one that had that swagger, the one that had the X factor, that I hate to call that word charisma, but that's what I link it to. When you're in love, whether that's a romantic interest, whether it's a boyfriend, a husband, a girlfriend, a wife, or whatever the context is, and you're spurned on. It makes the further connections that we are who we surround ourselves with. Just like in the Mastermind Alliance, things like this group. You are the sum of the parts. You take on the energy of everybody else. I mean, just if just in the weeks that pass, you're like, oh, I'm in a book club. I gotta do this book, and all this information. This this is awesome. And it's, you know, you get the spirit above you. And so just like the love context, when you're in love, when you have the beginning stages of love, even if you've lost it, even if right now you're, you know, you're currently not in love, but you can summon that emotion. You can summon that up, and you can transmute it into whatever it is. That's the genius level, you know, the creative imagination, to use your willpower, the faculty of your mind, the reason, the other faculty of your mind, to take that willpower and use that emotion, use that love, use that romance, and to put it into your goal, your achievement, or whatever you're offering. You know, no one cares about, you know, it's, as they were saying in the book, it's not, you know, it's not the salesman that, you know, I really don't care how much the turning radius of my car is. You know, does anyone here know the turning radius of their vehicle?
No.
No. Do you care about that? No. I mean, maybe, you know, if you had a tight driveway, you know, there's 1 out of 100 people that may want to know that. But it's the guy that connects with you and connects with you on an emotional level, knows what you want, but tells you to sit in there, turn the radio on. You know, that's telling you, imagine taking your husband out or your boyfriend out, and you got the tunes down, and the top, and the wind is blowing through your hair. How do you feel? You know, and you're sitting in this brand new vehicle. You know, you got all this emotion over you. You don't care about the turning radius. You care about, wow, this is the brand new, wind in my hair. I got my, you know, my partner right next to me. Oh, the music's blaring. You transmuting all this emotion, or the highest vibration, into your offering. That's what I took out of it, and it is very true, because you know, I've had great partners in my life, and I've had some that are not so great, and you know, so people in your life can have a make or break difference in your zest of life. But that's what I took, Sandra, from the, you know, I do very interested on how the chapter is for Think and Grow Rich for women, and because it is certain context, but it, just as he was saying at the end of the on one of the paraphrases of women and wife and things of that nature, that just like, you know, a man and a woman should never ignore or let the interests die of one another, or the values of one another die, and it's our responsibility to keep that going. And it is part of success, who we are. I just thought I'm the opposite. I found this entirely fascinating, and that it connects, as I said, it connects with the highest vibrations, and transmuting that expression into your endeavor. Was there anything someone wanted to add on that, or hop on, or add to whatever I said at all?
Yeah, just to say that, to reiterate that knowledge is all around us. We should always be aware of that. I think in time you've learned not to trust what your brain can do, or what you can do as a person. We should relearn. We should relearn that ability to be in tune with everything that's around us and be able to use it. The more, I think, over multiple chapters, I've seen emphasis on the aspect of application and utilization of knowledge. and everything that's around you. People usually say they don't have enough, and so because they don't have enough, they don't act. But you should know that at any given point in time, all you have right now is all that you need. So you will, I like one of the chapters that we went through where Napoleon Hill actually says some people wait for all the robots to turn green. So you don't need to necessarily wait for all the robots to turn green. Just wait for the one that you're on right now. The moment it turns green, just move ahead with faith, knowing that at some point the next one will turn green, because you'll never move off of dead center. So at every point in time, whenever you're pursuing a goal, you should know that you have what it takes. Don't question your mind, don't question yourself, because the moment you second guess yourself, you'll probably never move. You'll wait for something and something else and something else. I can relate in my, I used to tell myself that I'll never marry before I completed my chartered accountancy course. And at some point, I realized that a friend of mine that was really hard in his studies sacrificed a whole year and failed. And he sacrificed his whole life, came to a standstill. And still, that ultimate desire that he had, he didn't achieve. And so I asked myself, what's the point? You should be able to balance everything out and be able to just go for what's in your heart without necessarily stopping for God knows what.
Excellent. That was excellent. And you brought out some very interesting statements and topics, and it is the faculties of our mind. It is the reason, the will, and he briefly talks about some of that, and Napoleon also Hill talks about what he refers to as the sixth sense. I I don't like to even call any of the higher faculties of our mind a sense, but they are, and but they are something that we develop. And the connotation is our five senses is something that is given to us by the outside world. We'll hear the outside world, we'll taste, we'll see it. These are things that we just accept from the outside world in our minds higher faculties like imagination, or as Napoleon Hill puts it, creative imagination, memory, perception, the will, reason. These are our mind's higher faculties, and so my point on that is that these are things that we have to develop to really, and they can be developed, and it takes work to do that. And so he brings up creative imagination, and he brings up what is a genius, and Napoleon Hill lists genius as a man who discovered how to increase the vibrations of thought to the point where he can freely communicate with sources of knowledge not available through ordinary rate of vibration of thought. And I found that I love that, because it's saying, everyone is just going through their day-to-day operation and whatever they need to get by. And again, many people live off just their five senses alone. And so it's going to take the development and using our faculty of the will, that we focus. It's a laser focus, that we're making a decision that we are going to master this objective. And what also he lists the creative imagination as the faculty of creative imagination is the direct link between the finite mind of man and the infinite intelligence. I just love that, you know, because it is our imagination that's going to, it has nothing to do with logic. We were kind of talking about this last week, Leroy and I, and imagination. It took, you know, that's what Steve Jobs used to create the personal computer. I mean, Steve Wozniak, actually made it, but it was Steve Jobs who saw, his friend just tinkering with this electronic device in his garage, and it was his creative imagination that sparked, he saw the whole thing laid out before his eyes. It has nothing to do with logic. He met with a lot of people saying, you know, why would somebody want a personal computer? Why would somebody want a computer in their home? And can you imagine in this day and age where all of us right now have a mobile computing device? We all probably have 2 or 3 of them, but can you imagine that statement? What 30 odd years ago, which to me seems like it was yesterday, but lots of people are gonna. With the Beatles, when they came out and they came out with their version of it was the backbeat, and when they were coming out with that high energetic singing and the guitars and that at the time, Ringo Starr with that drum beat, that was almost heavy metal back then. But every time they came to a record executive to try and sell their goods, can you give us a contract where it hit everywhere we go, and there were so many people turned them down saying guitar music is a fad. Nobody wants to hear guitar driven music, you know, and 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 that's going by logic, and they persevered, and they didn't listen to any of that, and arguably they the finest examples of a mastermind alliance, and probably the best singer-songwriters in history, but it was not, to me, it's not listening to anybody. It is the will, persistence, but it's that creative imagination. It's saying it doesn't matter. This is the vibe. This is the thought that I have in my mind. And that's what to me is developing that. Why, and somebody can take whether it's the expression of sex or love, and he goes on. Napoleon Hill goes on to the road to genius consists of the development and control and the use of sex, love, and romance. And when the emotion of romance is added to these of love and sex, the obstructions between the finite mind of man and the infinite intelligence are removed. So when I think of it as love, I think of it as emotion, and so when you're connecting all that there, when you're in love, when you love what you're doing, you love a family member. That's why he makes that connotation that you think of the love for your friend or a love of a child is, of course, that much different than the love of a partner, because you're bridging that romance and that emotion together. And when you're in love, you know, just like Abraham Lincoln, when you're just in love, there is no obstructions. It's that creative imagination that just anything is possible. And, you know, if you think it up here, you'll hold it here. You know, that's my take on it. You know, nothing's impossible with love. You know, and that you're vibrating. If the law of vibration is stating that everything is moving at one speed or another, and that the law of attraction is stating like energy is attracting like energy, we want to do whatever we possibly can to be in a positive vibration, a positive state of vibration, and those states, positive states of vibration, are love, gratitude, joy. So I found this to connect with this on many different levels, and that's my take on it. Does anybody have any standouts or anything that they wanted to add to this before we wrap up?
Just an addition, maybe as you're talking, Dave, I also thought maybe in terms of women, I've seen the way women act around maybe their children, their nieces, nephews, that love that drives them to act in certain ways. People say they act crazy when you cross a certain line when it comes to their loved ones. I believe if we could get to that level of motivation where they can, where they really don't care about anything else, all they're focused on is what's best for their child or their husband or their relatives. I think that way of acting would also be a serious motivator. You have to bring about the same feelings of maybe call to mind at a certain time when, for instance, Sandra, if someone hurts your niece or child or nephew, the way you would act, your feelings, you kind of block out everything and you zone in on the best interest of that subject. And I feel if someone can vibrate at that level where nothing else matters, you could even die for this particular person. I think you can, if you can transmute that same level of passion and energy into a goal that you have written down, then that'll be it. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely, and that is something that's a good example, and that is a strength. It is a huge motivating energy and strength, and that's what we want. I mean, mainly why we want time and money freedom is to provide for our family and to keep everybody happy and healthy, and provide for them the things that they want for life or that we didn't have growing up. And so I want to I'll post it tomorrow morning in the group. We're going to go back, and because I want to see by the time this book ends, I do want to see us with those gold cards. You know, I'm still on that. That hasn't died whatsoever. And so next week we're gonna see what our ultimate goal is. We'll just review that, but we'll pick our most inspired quote that we plan to put on the back of that. And so we'll go over the quote this coming Thursday, and the week after that or so, I want us to get it laminated. However we got to do it, whether it's at the local Office Max or Office Supply store, It won't cost much at all, but it has a small investment, but the benefits of having something on you that you get to look at multiple times during the day. Because, you know, the stresses of life, you know, whatever comes knocking at your door, you're not thinking of your ultimate goal. You're not, you know, when the stresses come or the obstacles that come into your life and they come knocking, you know, you're thinking of, I'm going to eat this pizza. I am not going to stay on my diet, you know. And so it's having that, because we have weakness of attention, you know. Our attention spans is something that we can develop, and so the magic of having our ultimate burning magnificent obsession on us, in that quote, that when we're feeling that and we read it, that they'll push us right over the hump and push us over that moment, that you know, temporary defeat. So I thank you so much, everybody. You know, I love this. I learned so much. I'm truly blessed by each and every one of you, and I cannot wait. You know, for next week. It's getting, like I said, it's getting really, really into the nitty gritty and opening up things that I think that has tremendous impact. And you know, so chapter 12, the subconscious mind, and is the connecting link, the 11th step to riches. So I look forward to it. Have a great night, guys.
All right, you too, guys.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Bye.